Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
This is Steven LaFevers of Hyster Company. You're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast, and this is my safety tip. We believe somewhere in the neighborhood of a third of all forklift trucks have a telematics system that can actually tell you about operator behavior, operator speed, operator impacts, and probably less than 25% of that data is actually harvested and used. If you want a good view of your application, the features of your application in terms of your operator and their operator behavior, please take a look at your telematics data. And again, if your telematics data doesn't have that, then please talk to us because we've got one that does.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Steven LaFevers. He is the VP of Emerging Technology at Hyster. He's been on the show previously as well. So we talked to Hyster a few times on the show. A lot of different things have been happening with them, especially in the emerging technology space. And we're going to focus on safety a little bit today and a new innovation that they've had in their safety as well that they're bringing to the market, which is going to be pretty impactful, I think, to the market as a whole, and the safety aspect too. Especially when you're dealing with forklifts, you want to be as safe as possible, and any technology that we can utilize to help us make the environment safer is always good as well. So Steven's going to come on. He's going to talk to a little bit about his role with emerging technology and tell us a little about these safety advancements that they're coming out with or have just recently come out with. So Steven, welcome to the show. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me again, Kevin. Looking forward to it.
Definitely happy to have you on. Always happy to have Hyster on and learn about the things that you guys are doing. So tell us a little bit about your role in emerging technology. You're VP of Emerging Technology at Hyster. So I'm curious, actually, more on the side of how do you, I guess, identify the right technology to move forward with? Because you got technologies that are emerging, but which was the one to grab onto? How do you know which ones to grab onto and run with?
Thanks, Kevin. I think that's a big question. So, I think what we noticed some years ago is that as technology was advancing, it was creating a really more and more diverse set of needs for our customers and more diverse set of problems. It's more about moving materials. It's moving a wider range of materials, in a very optimal way. And so starting back at telematics, we built kind of a solution-based team that would incubate new technology and then roll it out. Mm-hmm. And then our goal is really to define these technologies, whether it's telematics or hydrogen fuel cells or lithium batteries. That type of technology is a key characteristic of the Hyster brand. And so, I think that's how we do it. I think new technology really is driven by the customer. So I would love to say we have like 50 fillers out there and we've got all these, different academic research projects to look, but it's really driven by it's really driven by customers, large customers who say, listen, I've got this set of problems, help me fix it. And we either purchase companies or partner with companies and go about solving that problem. And so, that's a really good question because we wrestle with it. We're asked to really advance the systems we have as well as select new systems to offer to the market. So it's a really, good question. And I think, that most recently we're offering a solution that really focuses on adding awareness to the operator and pedestrians to help customers achieve their safety goals. Mm-hmm. We think that there's some opportunities there related to, you think about it, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've launched robotics with a new level of sensors to understand the world around it. Okay. With LiDAR sensors and cameras and vision systems, etc. Mm-hmm. I think what we've tried to adopt, and this was really launched by a large company, one of the world's largest retailers. Yeah. And they said, listen, I want all that robotic-like technology to aid my operator in making the best decisions of what should he slow down, how guiding them to slow down at the end of the aisle, understanding pedestrians coming out of a trailer, not lifting too high, not lifting loads they shouldn't. Yeah. And the list goes on and on. And so I think we've spent the last 14, 16 months to launch what's now Hyster Reaction, and we're really, really excited about it.
Interesting. Yeah. And I love that it's coming from, like you said, the emerging technology. It's not a bad thing that you guys don't have all these academic studies going on and that you're actually listening to the customer. Because I think a lot of times some companies, they try to go with technology that they think the customer will need, right, without any real kind of driving influence from the customer himself. So the fact that it is a customer that's kind of pushing you into this safety space is really, really interesting, and that there's an immediate need for it in that case. So really cool stuff. So I'm curious, on the customer side and like the voice of customer that you guys are listening to identify these technologies, what are they really looking for on the subject of safety, like over the past few years, and I guess over the time that you guys have been in operation, what are they looking for on the subject of safety, and how has that evolved over the years to get to where you are now?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question as well. So I really like to start with the most basic system you've ever known, which is lights. Okay. Right. So if you think about it, when, lights was probably put on forklift trucks many, many years ago. Right. Right. And so then we went to backup alarms. Right. Okay. Again, things that are, backup alarms aren't put on 100% of every truck. Right. It's fundamentally like, we all wouldn't recognize that, but it's still not. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you look at things called blue lights or curtain lights that have really made over the past 15 years, decade, really, they've come out and they're now putting on hundreds of thousands of trucks every day, probably, right? So the next evolution of that is really using sensing technology or sensor technology that is interpreted really by a new generation of controllers that are controlling these trucks. I make the kind of the comparison back to robotics. Robotics needed an upgrade to a controller because the robotic system needs to control the movement of the truck, the speed of the truck, how far it lifts, whatever it does. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about it, you've got that. When I'm sensing things, if I've already built the robotics controller in there, if I've got an operator on there, can't I look at the center of gravity and look at the objects around the operator and slow the truck down at a really controlled pace? So it's really just alerting the operator. Right. Similar to, should I be able to, the operator comes up, it's a 4,000 pound forklift truck and he goes to pick 6,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. Should I allow that to happen, or should I warn them? Hey, too big, too much. Yeah. And so I think a lot of that technology was built into robotics and since the nucleus of emerging technology has all these inputs, we were able to really be nimble with the customer that asked for these things. Hey, we got that technology here, and we've got data systems here, telemetry, and we built these things from a power standpoint. How do we use it all and create that next level of intelligence for the operator? And so I think that's what are the customers looking for. They're seeing this technology in other places, like, hey, can that technology aid my operator?
Right. And
that's been our goal, and that's what we've launched within Hyster Reaction.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think it's super smart. I mean, the idea is, why would you not want to give the operator a heads up, especially as, you get operators and there's a lot of things going on in a warehouse and a distribution center, a lot of distractions, things that could catch their attention, or a lot of times we're working long hours too, maybe not as alert as they necessarily should be. Or sometimes, you see a lot of people working in distribution centers working one or two different jobs at the same time. So, you never necessarily know what that person coming in with their, how awake they are, how alert they are. So giving them that help to be able to react properly and give them a warning, like as you said, or some type of trigger, like the machine slows down, alerts them when something is too heavy. Because even think about that. How do I know as a normal person, coming in, that something is 6,000 pounds versus 4,000 pounds, right? So being able to tell that to the operator and make them safer just by helping them a little bit and guiding them, I think is a great thing. So I'm curious, how has the reception been? I think you mentioned it just came out like 3 weeks ago. And it sounds like you already have a big customer on board that was kind of asking for this. So how has the reaction been, and have you seen like an impact already on customers' safety incidents?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think we're in the process of deploying 2,500 units with this new technology.
Okay.
And so we've got about 200 of them deployed, but they've only been deployed for, 2021. And so the data pieces, even if I had them, I don't know that they're ready to share. But
right.
I mean, every time there's a stop sign, we don't wait on the operator to slow the truck down. Right? We're going to slow them down at the stop sign. Every time they exit an aisle, we're going to slow them down. Every time they exit a trailer and there's anybody nearby, we'll slow them down. And so I think that proof's in the pudding related to just, we love to say that a well-trained operator operating at really their highest capacity will never know the system exists.
Interesting.
Because that person will never go up to a 6,000 pound and try to lift it up. They'll be slowing down before the system is coming into the coming stop sign.
Right.
And so I think, though, given the amount of turnover, labor is the challenge of the day.
Absolutely.
Given the amount of turnover, given the amount of, you're talking about hiring somebody and having them on a lift truck in a matter of days, this level of intelligence can provide a real service to the employee, not to mention benefit the employer. I think there's going to be 3 generations of this technology that you'll be talking about in the future.
Okay.
So for the past, 4 or 5 years, there's been these one-off independent solutions that have single functions. So that you got a LiDAR, it looks at what you're backing up at, and it'll actually light up when you come close to an object. Or kind of a basic system like that. Then you've got these systems that are integrated into the truck that'll actually control the truck, like decelerate versus just coming up with a light.
Right.
And then what we've built into Reaction, which I think is really the latest, greatest. We are cognizant that interruptions to that operator can really have an impact negatively on productivity. So, for instance, I mentioned slowing down when you're near a person, pedestrian detection.
Yeah.
We have a way to say that, hey, there's a wall between you and the operator. Don't slow down, right?
Okay.
Silent zone. When you're turning or when you're driving and we're looking at LiDAR scans, we only look at direction of travel. So if somebody comes right by you, we're not going to slow that unit down unless that person comes towards you.
Okay.
So we're building, we probably got 30 major feature functions that can really help build and advance operator and pedestrian situational awareness. But we're growing our list of productivity features that really offset the delays related to these interruptions that can occur. And because that's usually kind of the initial feedback that we're getting from customers, when you look at these single function systems, they're alerting because they're sensing objects all the time.
Right.
It doesn't matter if that object is behind a barrier or nowhere, or is a barrier itself, or just examples. And so I know we're early days, and so it's hard to pivot from these systems that really help customers with their safety goals, and at the same time, I'm talking about productivity. It's kind of a new concept, but that's really, I don't think they're not going to see wide scale until we really are conscious of both, if that makes sense.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting too. I mean, you have a really good point there about, other systems. Like it's good that it's sensing, but like you said, at times maybe it's not sensing correctly, and it's sensing like a barrier, or it's sensing something that's beyond the barrier. So there's no real need for an alert or a detection or anything. And I think when you run into situations like that, especially with technology, and people tend to get annoyed, I would say, by those things, and you probably will see in those situations where customers might be like turning off the sensing or something because it's like, it's not working properly. It's alerting me all the time for something that doesn't need to alert me for. So the fact that you guys are taking that next step in the technology and identifying things that only really need to be identified versus basically just everything, I think is really smart, and will really help with the adoption rate of it more, and the usability and the functionality overall, and the results that will come out of that, and reduce safety incidents and things of that nature. So you asked a question, sorry to interrupt, but you asked a question about what's the customer take up. And I think if you go and look at any customer's website, either a safety or an associate safety or something to do with just the wellness of their employees is probably the first thing you're going to see from a corporate standard standpoint. So, and at the same time, many of these are facing the same labor challenges that we see trying to get food at a restaurant right now, right? It's hard to find labor. And so I think this conversation is happening at a faster rate than I could have expected after launch. Yeah. And so it's really about educating, because it's really first of its kind. There's nothing like it. It's really the best way. It's almost like robotic-like. I mean, it's using that technology to aid that operator. Right. And so, these customers are like, what is it? Help me understand kind of how do I do it? And then, what's my limitations related to how can I deploy it? Are there certain models that it can apply to, certain models I can't? So we just had one right before this call with a big manufacturing company, and they're trying to get to the same end point. They're just trying to navigate through it because it's a lot to try to understand related to how they're doing material handling today versus how we'll do it in the future. Yeah. And I think, you said a couple of times about the labor issue. And I think that's a really important part of this, because, you mentioned, earlier, experienced driver, they're going to be slowing down before the technology even kicks in, you mentioned. So the real issue, it comes in when, we are hitting these labor shortages and having issues getting employees in, and maybe even, getting younger individuals interested in working in the warehouse and driving a forklift too. So that's part of the challenge. So sometimes you run into an issue where you really need people, and maybe you're bringing people in that are not as experienced, or you're trying to get them trained yourself within your organization, and when they're fresher on the machine and things like that, then they don't have these trainings built into them, and they don't have these slow down at certain points. And so technology like this can really help you to move that operator along in the training process, and get them more involved in the actual work quicker in a more safe manner, instead of trying to force them through essentially, and maybe not having them be the safest operator out there in your operation. So definitely an advantage there, and something I think it will make a huge difference in tackling kind of that labor issue and the safety aspect of that. I mean, bringing people in just because, maybe I guess lowering your standards a little bit for the experience that you would normally have, just to be able to fill roles and do the job that you need to do in the operation, and make sure that all your employees are safe, and that employee be safe as well. So really interesting from a lot of different aspects. And I'm curious about one thing. We're talking about object detection and things of that nature, but reading the information, I understand like the object detection aspect of it, and being able to, obviously recognize a human or a fixed structure or something like that. But you're mentioning that it's able to stop at an intersection, and it's able to stop when it recognizes a stop sign, which are not necessarily always object related in a sense from an intersection standpoint. So how does the technology work in that sense, and how does it realize that it's coming
that's
to
a good question. Yeah, so we use real-time location systems to map out the entire building.
Okay.
So we know every geofence zone, geofence height restriction, end of aisles, intersections, break rooms, you name it. So that's what I talked about before, about a single function system compared to a multi-layered system that really controls the truck. So your question's right. Mm-hmm. To an object detection system, an object is an object is an object.
Right.
To a tag system, a tag is a tag. Mm. Well, when you add them all together, right, you've got, where am I in the building? What certain business rules should I build based on the certain areas of my building? Mm-hmm. And then you have the backup of, if a box falls off a pallet and that person is going, he's going to stop before that box hits the front of the back of the forklift truck. So
got it.
I think that's the kind of the benefit to layering it all. And it became layered because we started with one and it wasn't really meeting the need. Right. I mean, we started with kind of a selection of use cases from this customer. Yeah. And we tested it and well, could it do this? And could it do that? And could it do this? And then we got to the point where we were able to navigate through a commercial solution that could have lasting impact for this customer, but wider market appeal.
Interesting. Yeah, it's curious about that because but I think it's so necessary, because there is more than just objects that require some type of alert or technology to help the operator navigate it safely and properly as well. So really interesting how you guys have developed that. And I'm thinking about this technology, and we kind of talked about this already, but in the future, as this technology develops, and I can only see it getting more widespread, because you look at safety incidents, especially forklift incidents. I mean, they can be incredibly serious, and not only serious from the aspect of individual injuries and destruction of property and stuff like that, but they can end up costing companies a lot of money. So investing in safety technology to help prevent that is certainly something that I can see a lot of companies taking on. But how do you think it will really have an impact on the future of safety, like in the next couple of years?
So I think it'll redefine the standard for how the trucks are purchased and used. I mean, I gave the example of lights, and then blue lights, and backup alarms. I think this is the next evolution. Right. And I think people will navigate between the cost solution and the benefit. Mm-hmm. I think, volume will create scale will reduce the cost. I think more and more trucks will be designed with this integrated, so extra component will be removed. It's just a matter of how long, but I agree. I mean, I think this is going to be, kind of just like the electrification journey with trucks. You're gonna see a similar journey. This is best used for the warehouse client, not necessarily an external party where they're in this big field moving lumber and they don't see but maybe one person every 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I think you'll see electric customers flock to this type of technology. I think we're definitely first to the market with a solution built and promoted by an OEM that's integrated within the truck. I think we're going to see more and more technology hitting the market related to this because many of these companies have already built robotics, right? And so just creating a derivative with a little bit more focus on how to not create a productivity barrier, I think will be the natural evolution that many parties play. And so I think the question that I would ask, customers is one, what really directed your safety items related to the truck today?
Right.
So, so there are clear type of things that you make sure that are on every unit.
Mm-hmm.
And do they achieve your safety goals? Right.
Okay.
And then try to look through that lens at what's offered today in the market, whether it's a single function system that I mentioned before, or whether it's, a more comprehensive solution. And then, also there's so many customers out there that have wealth of telematics detail on safety in terms of operator behavior and speed and impacts, et cetera. And they're not acting on it. So, I think those would be the kind of the three tips that I would have for any customers really. Do you have a true design related to how you purchase lift trucks, and is it meeting your safety goals? And are you studying the data related to safety that you have within your telemetry system? And so we offer that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of design the interconnectedness of those systems to be really a holistic solution.
Okay.
So that we can let's just say the adjust the controls, for example, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to see specific rules, not by the truck, not by the area, but by the operator, and more that's going to continue. So we're excited about it.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's definitely exciting stuff. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's just going to evolve into becoming the standard. I mean, I couldn't see why it wouldn't, if it's going to make operations safer. And, I think that's a huge thing. And, it's also going to help operators be safer and, feel more comfortable in the truck too. I think in a sense, especially those newer operators that we were discussing earlier. And, with that being said, I mean, I do have the question, do you think that if this technology is implemented, does it reduce the amount of training needed for forklift operation, or do you still think that it should remain at the same level?
Yeah, I don't think it reduces it. No, I think you can actually use it to reinforce it.
Okay.
So, training, training goes out and they get certified. And a lot of customers up there maintain certifications, so they'll train them. But, let's just go through an example for a minute.
Sure.
So we go and we hire Tony and we go through training. Okay. And we say, listen, at the end of an hour, you need to stop, honk your horn, look both ways.
Right.
Right. And then we see that within the first 10 days, the system, Hyster Reactions, slows him down 9 out of 10 times.
So
would you pull him out and train him again? I'd pull him out and train him again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how powerful is that? I mean, because, you got a system that's an alarm, but the system is only there to guide the operator. The system can fail. So I think I would use it as a reinforcement for training, not an avoidance of training. So, I think it's going to provide that clear guidance. I think people know. I think they know who their good operators and bad operators, but most of the metrics I see are in productivity. How awesome to have a definitive safety metric for your operator.
Yeah.
I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's great because, oftentimes I think you see safety just measured as like there was an incident or there wasn't an incident. Not like, oh, well, this person, and an incident meaning, there was an accident or something, right? And you not like you just mentioned, like, oh, this person didn't slow down. And a lot of times too, I think, I've certainly experienced it in, my work as a warehouse manager too, where someone else in the warehouse working in the warehouse will say, oh, this person they didn't stop at this intersection. But, if you're not there and you don't have a camera on that intersection or anything, then it's hard to come back and reinforce that. I mean, you can mention it, but then, oftentimes you mention it, and of course, employees will say like, oh, no, I always stop, this and that.
Yeah.
So this gives you that data point that it is good.
And you never know, he might have been tired that day in the first part of training, right? And so, and so it's definitive. I mean, we offer impact camera, right? So it impacts, it takes pictures for 30 seconds before, 30 seconds hour. I think you've had Kevin on the phone and he talked about it. I mean, so I mean, there's been lots of there's been lots of development on that. I think. I think our goal really is to be super agile or nimble related to how these technologies adapt over time, and be quick to evolve, right? I mean, so the camera's doing great. We're out there. We're selling them. Customers are happy. I think if we could offer them a camera that checks an object or a system that slows down before it hits an object, I think they'd prefer the system that slows down before it hits the object.
Definitely, I think so.
And so, I think there'll be lots. I think it'll take years to create a standard. In the meantime, we'll have that camera. It'll be a backup. There's lots of other benefits related to, understanding, really kind of what each operator is doing and how they're entering a pallet, how they're exiting a pallet, if that's causing impact. So I'm not dismissing the benefits of it, but you can see a clear evolution back to back, right?
Yeah.
Within a year.
Yeah.
We're launching a system, then a system. And so, I mean, again, I think we make that promise to all of our customers related to, hey, we'll make an honest effort if we believe the solution that you're asking for has, can really solve your pains and others.
Mm-hmm.
We're wanting to be quick and agile to work on that. And luckily, we have an innovations department in Portland. We've got innovation team in England. We've got innovation team in Greenville. So, I mean, it's exciting to see. I think, I'd love for the last 10 years of my career just to go from one incubation hub to the next and test out new stuff. I mean, it's kind of like my Willy Wonka chocolate factory, if I'm being honest with you. Right. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
All right, very cool stuff, and I think definitely a big step in the right direction for safety-wise around the forklifts. So, Steve, I want to thank you for coming on the show again and talking to me. So, how can people find out more information about Hyster and find out more information about this new technology?
Yeah, I'd go to YouTube and type in Hyster Reaction to see a video that walks you through some technology features that have really never been seen before. And then Hyster.com, always, we're excited to talk to you.
All right, very cool. And we'll put that video and the link to Hyster.com as well on the newwarehouse.com so you can easily find it. So, Steven, thank you again for your time today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.